Think about something you probably did this week. You opened your refrigerator. You saw leftovers. And you reheated them. It felt practical. Responsible, even. You didn't want to waste food. But what if I told you that reheating certain foods can quietly change their chemistry? In ways most people have never been warned about. Not by cooking blogs. Not by health shows. And sometimes, not even by doctors. Because the danger isn't obvious. It doesn't change the smell. It doesn't change the taste. And your body often doesn't react immediately. But over time, these chemical changes can trigger inflammation, oxidative stress, and metabolic strain in organs that are extremely sensitive to damage. One of those organs is your pancreas. And here's the part that makes this conversation urgent. Pancreatic cancer has one of the lowest survival rates in modern medicine. Often below 12%. Why? Because the pancreas rarely sends early warning signals. Damage can build silently for years before symptoms appear. Today I'm going to walk you through 5 foods that can become surprisingly problematic when reheated incorrectly, and the simple adjustments that dramatically reduce the risk. And number 3 is the one most people repeat several times every week without realizing it. Let's start with fried foods. Leftover fries. Fried chicken. Spring rolls. They taste fine the next day. But reheating them, especially in oil, creates a chemistry problem. Most fried foods are cooked in vegetable oils like soybean, sunflower, or corn oil. These oils are rich in polyunsaturated fats. Those fats break down when exposed to high heat. And when reheated again, they undergo further oxidation. This process forms compounds called aldehydes. Aldehydes generate reactive molecules known as free radicals. Free radicals damage cell membranes, proteins, and even DNA. Your body can neutralize some of this damage, but repeated exposure creates chronic inflammation. And inflammation is one of the biological environments where cancer risk increases. So here's the safer approach. If you reheat fried food, avoid adding fresh oil. Use dry heat instead. An oven or air fryer restores texture without triggering additional oil breakdown. Even better? Eat fried foods immediately after cooking rather than reheating them repeatedly. Now let's talk about leafy greens. This one surprises people. Spinach, kale, and similar vegetables are extremely nutritious. They contain fiber, antioxidants, and important minerals. But they also contain natural compounds called nitrates. Fresh nitrates are harmless. In fact, many vegetables rely on them. But once cooked and stored, bacteria can convert nitrates into nitrites. When those nitrites are exposed to heat again, they can react with proteins to form compounds known as nitrosamines. Nitrosamines are classified as potential carcinogens. The important thing to understand is that this reaction requires 2 steps. First cooking, then reheating. Does this mean you should avoid leafy greens? Absolutely not. But there's a simple adjustment. If you cook spinach or similar greens, eat them fresh. Or store them and enjoy them cold the next day in a salad, wrap, or grain bowl. The nutrients remain intact, and the secondary heating reaction never occurs. Now here's the one that catches almost everyone off guard. Rice. Rice seems harmless. But uncooked rice naturally contains spores of a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. Cooking kills the active bacteria. However, the spores survive. If cooked rice sits at room temperature too long, those spores can activate and multiply. During that growth phase, they produce toxins. And here's the key detail. Some of those toxins are heat stable, which means reheating the rice may kill bacteria, but it does not destroy the toxin already produced. Most people associate this with food poisoning. But even smaller exposures can irritate the digestive system and contribute to inflammation in the gut. And the gut and pancreas are biologically connected through shared blood flow and inflammatory signals. So the safest method with rice is simple. Cool it quickly after cooking. Store it in the refrigerator within an hour. Eat it within 24 hours. And reheat it thoroughly only once. Never leave it sitting on the counter for hours before storing. Next is chicken. The issue here is not chemistry. It's heating consistency. Microwaves heat food unevenly. They excite water molecules inside the food, but different parts heat at different speeds. This creates what scientists call cold spots. Cold spots may remain at temperatures where bacteria can survive. And poultry commonly carries bacteria such as Salmonella and Campylobacter. Proper initial cooking kills them, but contamination can occur afterward through utensils, surfaces, or handling. If reheated chicken has cold spots, bacteria can survive and multiply. Repeated mild infections can trigger chronic inflammation in the digestive system. So, what's the safer reheating method? Use an oven when possible. Moderate heat warms the food evenly. If using a microwave, cut the chicken into smaller pieces, stir or rotate halfway through heating, and allow it to rest covered for a minute or two after heating so the temperature equalizes. Or simply enjoy it cold in salads. Finally, let's talk about potatoes. Roasted potatoes are delicious. But they undergo a chemical reaction called the Maillard reaction during cooking. That reaction creates the golden brown color and flavor people love. However, it also produces a compound called acrylamide. Acrylamide forms in starchy foods exposed to high heat. When potatoes are cooled and reheated at high temperatures again, conditions for acrylamide formation can increase. At the same time, something else happens. Cooling potatoes converts part of their starch into resistant starch. Resistant starch slows glucose absorption and supports healthy gut bacteria. But reheating at high heat reverses that process, so the food that became metabolically beneficial when cooled returns to a rapidly digested starch. That creates larger blood sugar spikes. And who responds to blood sugar spikes? Your pancreas. Repeated glucose spikes force insulin-producing cells to work harder. Over years, metabolic stress can accumulate. A better approach? Enjoy cooked potatoes cold in dishes like potato salad. Or reheat them gently rather than frying or crisping them again at high heat. Now let's step back. None of these foods are toxic, the real issue is repeated habits. Repeated oxidation. Repeated inflammation. Repeated metabolic stress. Those small exposures accumulate over time. And organs like the pancreas, which rarely send warning signals, absorb the consequences quietly. But here's the encouraging part. The body is remarkably resilient. Reduce the stress. Support the system. And biological recovery begins. Choose reheating methods that minimize oxidation. Store food safely. Avoid repeated high heat cycles. And pay attention to the small habits repeated every day in your kitchen. Because long-term health is rarely shaped by dramatic events. It's shaped by small choices repeated thousands of times. And one of the most powerful health decisions you can make today might be something as simple as how you reheat dinner. In the next video, I'll explain the common breakfast foods that silently spike blood sugar and strain the pancreas, even foods most people believe are healthy. Once you see how that mechanism works, you'll start looking at your morning routine very differently.